And on behalf of the Yashwantrao Chavan Center, I'd like to welcome you all to the Mumbai Dialogue on World Affairs. So today marks the 12th session in our series of this monthly foreign policy talks. And we are so thrilled that it's been a year since this small initiative of ours has grown so big, and it has connected us to this huge community that we have built online and offline. So on behalf of our entire team, I would like to express our gratitude to this community, and thank you so much for supporting us, and we only hope to get bigger and better. The Mumbai Dialogue on World Affairs has been the Chavan Center's effort to create a space for dialogue and discussion on public policy, foreign affairs, and political economy, with the aim of having foreign policy directives emerge from strong centers of influence such as Mumbai. This has been possible because of the efforts of Honorable Member of Parliament, Mrs. Supriya Sure, the architect of this event and the working president of both the Chavan Center and the Nehru Center. It is only fitting that this symposium is held at the Nehru Center, which is a living testament and a monument of faith to Nehruvian values and the vision that the great Jawaharlal Nehru, the architect of Indian foreign policy, had for India. In our 12th lecture today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Yogendra Yadav, whose talk is titled Reclaiming the Republic, the Challenge of 2024, and Dr. Rajan Berukar, who will be presiding over today's program. Mr. Yogendra Yadav needs no introduction, and yet I will give him a brief one. Mr. Yadav is a psephologist, activist, political commentator, and politician. He was a senior fellow at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies from 2004 to 2016. He's a former member of University Grants Commission and National Advisory Council on Right to Education Act, constituted by the Ministry of Human Resources and Development, Government of India. He was a member of the National Executive of the Aam Aadmi Party until 2015. Mr. Yadav is a founding member of Swaraj Abhiyan and Jai Kisan Andolan. He is the founding national president of Swaraj India. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Dr. Rajan Berukar is the Vice Chancellor of Atlas Skill Tech University and was the former Vice Chancellor of Mumbai University. In his experience of more than 36 years with the Indian education system, higher education system, as a teacher, development leader, quality innovator, technology adopter, administrator, and policy advisor, he has served as Vice Chancellor at the Yashwantrao Chavan Maharashtra Open University, SNDT Women's University, GH Raisoni University, and Oro University, respectively. He has also served as Deputy Secretary to the Governor of Maharashtra. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I would now like to request Mrs. Nirmala Samant, former Mayor Mumbai, and Ms. Deepthi Nakle to come on stage to felicitate our two guests, and both our guests to also kindly come on. So nice to have you here today. Please, sir, over there. So to Yadav, sir. Oh, sure. He's here. Yes. Thank you. I've just noticed that Mr. Narendra Murkumbiji is here, one of our trustees, and we would really like it if you could felicitate Berukar, sir. In the absence of Supriyatai, we would like you to, yeah, please. Yeah. All right, so without any further ado, we have Mr. Yogendra Yadavji. Sir, would you like to speak up from the podium, or do you want to keep it informal, as you wish? No, sir, whatever's more comfortable. Okay, sure, please. Yeah, thank you.
My gratitude to the Yashwantrao Chavan Center, first of all, for inviting me for this talk, for considering that what's happening in India right now a significant part of the world affairs to which the series is devoted. Grateful that we have a scholar like Dr. Rajan Belukar to chair this session. And I'm so happy that persons from several walks of life, activists, academics, students, are here for this conversation. I would like to treat it as conversation, and my initial remarks to trigger the conversation. Because it's a conversation that every Indian needs to have with herself. It's a conversation about the future of our republic. And that's why I titled it as Reclaiming the Republic. Now, Bombay needs no introduction to reclamation. There's just too much of reclamation in Bombay. But we reclaim something that we've lost. So clearly the title presupposes and suggests that we may have lost our republic unless we reclaim it. So in the first part of what I would say, I would make some suggestions about why I think such a radical proposition is worth taking seriously. Because these are things we should not say lightly. We've lost our republic. Because there's a tendency for hyperbole in public life. I don't like it. I think we should measure our words and be responsible for everything we say. And therefore, I say with all seriousness that what is at stake today is the very existence of our republic. The Republic of India is under threat and challenge today. That's the first part of what I would say. But reclaiming the republic also presupposes that it can be reclaimed, that it needs to be reclaimed, and that 2024 has something to do with it. So in the second part of what I say, I would talk about how we can go about reclaiming our republic. I'll say something about what the long-term challenge is, but I will spend more time in talking about what the short-term challenge is, because that, in the last instance, is why I'm here. I'm not here to give a telescopic view of India for the next 100 years. Some people can and should do so. Some of them are here with us. But I think I was introduced as a politician, which is how I want to be introduced. I'm a political worker. And in the last instance, political thinking is about answering this simple question. So what is to be done? I'll try and answer that question. What is to be done? What can be done to reclaim this republic? Because I do believe that the republic can be reclaimed. And that, in that, 2024 will play a critical role. And in that, you and I can play a critical role. That's the burden of what I'm going to propose now. Let me therefore begin with the beginning. What is the challenge for the republic? There is some sense of crisis in the country. All of us are aware of that. All of us talk about that. Our democracy is under threat, we are told. It's like an undeclared emergency, so many of us say. It is fascism, some people say. The difficulty is that the challenge that we face is so multidimensional that each of us looks at that one slice of the challenge that we can grasp and somehow latch onto it and describe the entire challenge with the help of that one slice. I would like to invite all of us to look at the multiple slices of what constitute the challenge today. I will rapidly speak about 6 kinds of challenges that come from different directions. First, democracy is under challenge. That is something I don't need to belabor the point very much. Every day what we witness, you just have to pick up any newspaper for one single day, and you know there's something deeply abnormal here. Whether it's the conduct of independent, supposedly independent institutions like anti-corruption institutions, ED and CVC and CBI, or it is the conduct of our legislatures, or it is the conduct of our rulers, conduct of police, and I'm afraid even the judiciary, you get a sense of the fact that we are dealing with a crisis. I would not belabor this point, but I'll just draw your attention to 2 nuances. One is, many of us say it's an undeclared emergency. And by saying so, we think we are making a very strong point. I don't think that's the case. I think we are dealing with a situation which is much worse than the emergency, for 2 reasons. One is that emergency was declared as a response to what was proposed to us as an extraordinary situation. Whether it was extraordinary or not is a different matter. But those who imposed emergency in this country, Mrs. Gandhi, she said, here's an extraordinary situation, and for a limited time, we are imposing measures A, B, C, D. The difficulty today is that we are not being told that there is anything extraordinary. We are being told this is what democracy is. This is not for any limited period. This is the norm. This is what democratic rule is about. That if there is an election, the ED will get after opposition leaders. This is the norm. This is normal. What's extraordinary, unusual about it? That if you protest against the government, you would find yourself in jail under some charge or the other. That if you run a media house which is critical of the government, you will be shut down or just bought. That's a norm. That is the difference between the parallel emergency and today. In emergency, we were being told that there was an extraordinary situation for a limited period of time. What we are being told today is, this is not finite, this is infinite. This is not extraordinary, this is ordinary. And that's the most dreadful part of what we are dealing with. Our constitution has practically been suspended, and we are being told this is the norm. The second nuance that we need to notice about democracy is this, that many of us here, or if you go on a television channel, you have a debate, they would say, but there's no emergency, nothing has been declared, that elections are taking place in this country, elections take place regularly. What are you saying? What's the challenge to democracy? Please remember that the 21st century model of killing democracy is different from the 20th century model of killing democracy. In 20th century, the model for murdering democracy was straightforward. Someone with a army uniform would walk up to radio station, we didn't have television those days, and say, human rights suspended, martial law from tomorrow, censorship from the day after. That was the 20th century model. 20th century was very crude. In 21st century, we have smart models for everything, not just for telephones. We have smart models for murdering democracy as well. There's actually a book on this. and there are now more than one books, but there are books about it, about how to kill democracies. And the 21st century model, incidentally, that book is not about India. The book draws mainly from Russia, from Turkey, from Hungary. And what we witness in India is absolutely a replica of that. The model for killing democracy is that those who murder democracy do it in the name of democracy. Those who murder democracy evoke the people all the time. And those who destroy democracy ensure that elections are held very regularly. Please remember, Vladimir Putin holds elections regularly. Elections will be held. Some people in enthusiasm say, if BJP wins in 24, we won't have elections anymore. No, that's not true. You will have elections because that's a 21st century model. 21st century model of dictatorship is to hold regular elections and to have predictable outcomes. That is what we are witnessing. So we are in a different model altogether. That's the first element that I wanted to draw your attention to about the challenges that we face. Second is challenge to secularism. As you can recognize, these are constitutional principles. To this audience, I really don't need to convince you that secularism faces a challenge in this country. You can see it again every single day. The point to note, again, one or 2 points we need to note. One is that this country did have communal violence even before 2014. We had not once, but several very heinous instances, 1984, 2002, many instances of this kind. And some BJP supporters might say that, look, we have much less violence today than we had earlier. Please remember, street violence has been replaced by invisible violence. You don't need that kind of violence anymore because a certain symbolic and absolutely routinized violence has been put in place. Now, most of us, I fear that happens even to me once in a while. You have one more news about lynching and you just pass over. Acha, ek aur ho gaya. Because it's so routinized now. This is so violence has been routinized. Violence has been invisibilized. And for the first time, legally, constitutionally, we have created 2 tiers of citizenship in this country. The Citizenship Amendment Act was all about instituting 2 classes of citizens, first class and second class citizens. CAA may not have been implemented through rules right now, but for all practical purposes, almost in every police station of this country, irrespective of the party that rules, if you go and say your name is Anish, you will get one treatment. If you go and say your name is Anwar, you would get another treatment. So for all practical purposes, 2 tiers of citizenship have already been instituted in the country. That is secularism. Third challenge is to the idea of federalism. Now, federalism is not a word used in our constitution, but when Supreme Court sat down to decide what is the basic structure of our constitution, they could not but mention federalism as one of those key components. We are union of states. This country is not meant to be administered from Delhi. It has to respect the autonomy of the states. What we are witnessing in the last 10 years is systematic altering of the constitutional balance, increasingly in favor of the center in every single thing. Once again, you could say it's not unprecedented. I do remember, and many people sitting here would recall, that in 1980s, the Congress Party did use its powers to put the state governments on a lower pedestal. There were assaults on elected state government in 1980s as well. What we have today is something of a different order altogether. Because what we have is, for the first time, a systematic attempt to alter the constitutional balance. Many constitutionalists would say that Indian federalism was already skewed in favor of the center. What we now have is a very decisive attempt to change the balance of power, almost entirely in favor of the central government. The manner in which the GST has been implemented, that leaves the state governments actually utterly powerless. They have all the responsibilities and very little money that they can generate at their discretion to be able to handle that. And this entire scheme of one nation, one election, which is being proposed as an electoral reform, has nothing to do with electoral reforms. It is about changing the federal structure of the country. It is basically to redress a problem that the ruling party faces. The problem they face is that while they win at the central elections, they don't manage to win the state elections. So what's the solution? Tag them together. Hold the central elections, and with that, try and pull the state elections as well. So it is about one nation, one election, one party, one leader. That is basically the recipe. That is the full formula that's being enacted in the country. So we have challenge to the idea of federalism. Fourth, and I'll go over quickly because I know this can get too much, but I just want us to remember all the multiple dimensions of the challenge that we face. Fourth is the idea of socialism in our constitution, which has been observed in breach every single day. Let us not be under any illusion. No socialism of any kind has been established in this country for the last 70 years. But what we are witnessing today is an absolutely extraordinary situation. We have had earlier situations routinely of linkage between business and politics. That's not new in India. That's been happening again for the last 60 years or so. But what we today have is a South Korea-like situation where the rulers pick a few corporates, not all, and not random. Politicians being supported by businessmen at the local level is one kind of situation. But the state power deciding to pick corporate house X, Y, and Z, and then saying they will be our ambassadors to the world. They will lead a certain kind of economic development, and all the resources will be diverted to them. This is unusual. This has never happened in the country. And therefore, we must pay very careful attention to the Adani saga that's playing out. It's not merely about one more scandal of corruption. I think we have a new model of corruption altogether. And therefore, calling it Modani makes perfect sense. Because it is a different kind of partnership that we have not witnessed in the past. It's not, businessmen making a lot of money and then trying to influence politics, again, is not new. The important thing about Mr. Adani and his empire is that actually not too many of us can remember having bought anything produced by Mr. Adani. About other business houses, you can remember. You bought some things that they produced. You bought it, they earned profit from them, and so on. Mr. Adani's empire is not about selling. His empire is about buying. It's a very different kind of empire. And all those things have less to do with consumer and more to do with the government. Almost all those acquisitions are driven by the government. Almost all those involve element of cronyism. And not merely inside the country. Thanks to Sri Lanka, now we know that this is exactly that's what is being pushed outside the country as well. In Sri Lanka, the chair of the electricity board, when confronted by the parliamentary committee, he actually admitted in a parliamentary committee hearing that yes, I got a phone call from the president's office to say that Mr. Adani should be given a contract because the president's office had received a call from the Prime Minister of India that Mr. Adani should be given this contract in Sri Lanka. This is said, this is not an informal interview, this is not a media interview, this is to the parliamentary committee in Sri Lanka. All this is, of course, pushed under the carpet in our country. But, so what we are witnessing is a very different, it's not merely business and politics. It's not merely the rise of inequality, though the rise of inequality is extremely sharp. The economists measure it with something called the Gini index. The kind of rise of Gini index that India has witnessed in the last 10, 15 years is absolutely staggering. And if you simply were to look at Mr. Adani's wealth and how it jumped the day we had the beginning of lockdown, Mr. Adani's total wealth was 66,000 crore rupees. And within 2 years, while everyone in this country lost income or wealth, Mr. Adani somehow managed to increase it by 14 times. This is not a joke. We are witnessing something very unusual in this country. So that's the fourth challenge that I spoke about. Fifth is connected to it, which is about ecology. India has not been a great example of ecological sustenance. But over the last between early 80s and 2010s, a modicum of environmental laws and rules were framed to somehow slow down or at least do some elementary protection of the ecology and environment. In the last 10 years, not only have these been disregarded in practice, but even the formal apparatus, formal rules have been changed in order to allow for open plunder and destruction of ecology, whether it's coastline or or forests or land acquisition, whichever. This is just complete brazen growth-only model that's being initiated. And sixth and finally is social justice, which is our constitutional promise, which is what we have witnessed in the last 70 years. Again, a certain minimal architecture of a frame of social justice has been put in place, with reservations being one component and there being many other components. What we have seen in the last 10 years is a chipping away at this architecture one by one, whether it is in the name of EWS or in the name of single point roster or whatever that is called, or by way of changing rules about promotions, and above all, through very robust resistance to the idea of caste census. I know caste census can trigger all kinds of debates, and I would be very happy to answer questions on that. Allow me to skip it and just say that what we are witnessing right now is actually a erosion of the social justice framework which has come into being, and an attempt to bring the Varnashram system from the back door. So I've just listed 6 elements of the crisis that we face. If we put all those 6 together, how do we describe it? What is the challenge? To say that it's challenge to democracy is true but inadequate. To say that it's challenge to social justice or secularism is true but inadequate. Putting it all together, I say that this is dismantling of our republic. Because I make a distinction between democracy and republic, and which is not a classic political science distinction. In political science, we were simply told a place that does not have a monarch is republic. That's a trite distinction. That's not a serious distinction. By that distinction, England is monarchy, we are republic. But there's something deeper about republic. Republic presupposes a political community which has shared values, and which has instituted an institutional structure, rules of the game that we agree upon. These 3 things put together make for a republic. What we have today is dismantling of this. All these 6 things that I mentioned actually amount to dismantling of the republic. Those of us who read European history would remember that in France, they used to say First Republic, Second Republic, Third Republic. We keep hearing about these things. So in a sense, what's happening is that the First Republic of India that was inaugurated in 1950 is close to an end. That is what we face today. It is dismantling of the republic, which is a much deeper threat than simply the dismantling of democracy. And that's why I think this moment really requires deep reflection and gathering of energies of the entire country. Because when the republic faces a threat, and if you look at the world history, wherever countries, democracies, republics have faced a serious, deep threat, then most of the existing institutions are of no use. You have a small problem, you go to police. You have a bigger problem, you go to government. You have an even bigger problem, you go to parliament. But when you have foundational problems of this kind, police, government, parliament, and even judiciary is of no use. I'm not casting aspersions on the judiciary. All I'm saying is that if you look at history, when foundational crises come, judiciary is unable to stand up to protect the Constitution. So who would protect the Constitution? In the last instance, republics are defended by the public. That is the only way in history people come onto the streets. This happened in Bangladesh, this happened in Nepal, this happened, I don't want to give the French examples and others. Look at our neighbors, we need to learn from our neighbors once in a while. Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. When public came onto streets, this is when they could defend the Constitution and republic, as and when they could. We are standing at that moment in our history. So, am I suggesting coming out onto the streets? Maybe at some stage, yes, we all may need to do that. But we have one formal opportunity before that, which is 2024. So let me say something about how I think we can respond to this challenge and the role that 2024 can play in that. Reclaiming the republic requires 2 kinds of responses. One is long-term, the other is short-term. Long-term will be cultural and ideological. Short-term will be political. Just something very quick about long-term. I would have liked to speak long about long-term, but I don't want to today because I want to focus on the short-term. In the long run, we must admit and acknowledge, we, matlab, we the defenders of the Republic, we who believe in the Constitution, we who call ourselves liberal constitutionalists or by whatever name, we must admit that we have lost an ideological battle. That the constitutional values that were inaugurated, those constitutional values do not enjoy that kind of passionate support from the public. There was a big cultural battle. We lost it. We are on the loser's side in that cultural and ideological battle. And therefore, the only way in the long run is to win back that ideological cultural battle. It's a long-term battle. It's not going to be easy. If BJP loses 24, which I think it can, which I think it must, that's not the end of your troubles. That's not the end of the problems for the Republic. Out of power, they might even be more dangerous. All kinds of things would happen. So we have to be prepared for a very long-term battle. At least 1 or 2 generations will have to fight it out. And this should not surprise us, because those who have come to power have worked for 100 years now. So if someone has worked for 100 years, you must be at least prepared to work for 25 years to combat that, to detoxify that. The only substantive thing I wanted to say about that cultural and ideological battle is this. I know many friends would disagree, and I would love to discuss it, which is that our language of constitutional liberalism is of no use in fighting this battle. The language that we have used in the last 70 years, you go and tell people, oh, Constitution is at threat. All you would get is a big yawn. Huh? So what? Because these things do not really matter to people. Liberal democratic principles do not enjoy popular resonance. And the language of secularism that we have developed actually is almost counterproductive today. There are 3 things that we need to recover in the long run if we wish to reclaim our republic. One is nationalism. Second is our cultural civilizational heritage. And third is religion, including Hinduism. Now, all these 3 are controversial propositions. All I would say is that I think our intellectual elite has been really guilty of squandering away some of the deepest assets that this country had. Our freedom struggle gave us the kind of nationalism, deep positive nationalism, that Europe had not even seen. We squandered that away. And we started feeling as apologetic about nationalism as European intellectuals do, which was a response of imitation. That's not an authentic response to the idea of nationalism. Second, about cultural civilizational heritage. I must say, with all the emphasis at my command, that in the last 70 years, we have produced cultural illiterates in this country. This is a crime, and we all are guilty of that. Modern Indians and modern Indian education has actually made us illiterate about our own country, about our civilization, about our culture, about our languages. And the demotion of Indian languages to second rung level is cultural barbarity that we have practiced. And third, our indifference to religion and the secular arrogance that genuine secularism is atheist. Somehow this conflation of secularism with atheism and our indifference to religion has been one of the biggest mistakes we have made as a country. We, matlab, not the country, that is to say, the political and cultural and intellectual elite of this country. They have really neglected and have been indifferent to religion. So, in the long run, if we want to fight this battle, long-term battle of reclaiming the republic, its ideals and its spirits, we must recover nationalism, Indian nationalism, which was positive nationalism. My nationalism was not German nationalism. My nationalism was not a parochial nationalism. My nationalism never pitted me against my neighbor. My nationalism connected me to South Africa. My nationalism connected me to Bandung. My nationalism took me to Latin America. You know, I have inherited one of the most positive nationalisms of this world, and I have no reason to feel embarrassed about it. Our languages, and through that culture, it is astonishing. It is absolutely barbaric. I cannot use any expression other than that, and I use my words carefully. It is barbaric for this country to transit into English language as a principal means of educating our generations to come. Lest I'm misunderstood, let me clarify. I have nothing against teaching English as a language. But to this presumption that you must teach children history, geography, maths, and everything else through English language, which is not their mother tongue, through these English medium schools, where neither the child nor the parents and nor the teachers know any English. You cannot imagine a worse joke in the name of pedagogy than what we have practiced in this country. This has to be recovered. European modernity never for a moment turned a young European away from their civilizational heritage. European modernity, even till today, they are taught Latin, you know. But our modernity was so shallow that we turned against our own cultural heritage, and we produced people who know software, who know investment, who know economics, and who know nothing about the country they live in. You know, this emptiness has produced the vulgarity that passes in the name of Hinduism today. This Hindutva, this vulgarity, we are responsible for producing that vulgarity. And finally, about religion itself. I'm encouraged that Rajni is here, and she has over the years educated us about this issue. And I completely, have agreed with her over the years on this issue, that you simply can't, this travesty that we have produced about our understanding of religion is something that we need to change. We need to not only relate to religion from some high ground, we probably need to learn from religions. Religions are not barbaric. No religion of this world is barbaric. You know? So secularism needs to learn from religions, including Hinduism, because that's something which Indian seculars have been particularly inattentive to. That's why I say including Hinduism. That's long term. I do hope that some of us, and I'm encouraged that there are many young people in the crowd today, I do hope that some of us will make this our life's agenda, because this requires nothing than hundreds and thousands of Indians making it their life mission to attend to recover these three assets. None of these three belong to the BJP. ये तीनों हमने उठा के थाली में, उनकी थाली में रखे हैं. हमने उनकी थाली में रखे हैं और उसके बाद हम कह रहे हैं मेरे पास कुछ नहीं बचा. It will take a long work to recover these three. In the meanwhile, what's the short-term challenge? The short-term challenge is 2024. As I said, Republic in the last instance will be saved by the public. And one way still open in this country is elections. I don't know how long will it continue. Elections will happen, but elections where you can hope to defeat the ruling party, that may not continue for very long. But that's still an option. It's still possible. So that's the challenge of 2024. Please remember, 2024 is not an election to Parliament of India. It is an election to the Constituent Assembly of India. Unless we get this right, this election is not about who is going to fix your roads and water and electricity. This election is about whether the constitution that we have received is going to stay or not. And please remember, just as no anti-democrat in 21st century says, I have abolished democracy, similarly, when constitution of this country is discarded, there would be no formal announcement that we have discarded the constitution. They would just bring a constitution amendment like the 42nd Amendment. Those of us who remember something about this country's history would know what was 42nd Amendment. 42nd Amendment was no amendment. It actually simply transformed Indian constitution. It was called an amendment, but it actually changed everything about the way this country could be governed. So we would witness an amendment like that. Some tiny changes in the preamble to the constitution, some Sanatan somewhere, some indications, some changes in the fundamental rights, some changes in the powers of the courts and election commission, and maybe shift to presidential system. These are little tweaks that you would have. So 2024 is about whether our constitution would survive or not. Nothing smaller is at stake here. What can be done? Can something still be done? My friends ask me, can the BJP be defeated? Because somehow BJP's grand success is its psychological victory, that it can induce a walkover before the match begins. You know, that's basically the power of psychological games, that you concede it before the match begins. That's what BJP's propaganda is all about right now. If for a moment, and that's why, and especially those of us who live in somewhat upper class surroundings, which all of us do, let's not deceive ourselves. I mean, we are, those who call middle class are actually the upper class of this country. And because we are surrounded so much by BJP and Mr. Modi cult, that we somehow start believing that that's all over the country. That's not the case. So, for a minute, I would want all of us to just set that aside and do an elementary calculation. I'm not normally into, please don't think I'm doing my old stuff, psephology. I've given it up for good, and I'm very happy that I don't do that anymore. But I want all of you to do it for 5 minutes. Just think of the seats that BJP had in 2019. BJP had 303 seats. Just think of, try to recall the states, just think of all the states of the country and tell me one single state where BJP can possibly increase its tally from where it was in 2019. Just think about it for 1 minute. Think of one single state where BJP can possibly increase its tally from where it was in 2019. I used to think about 3-4 months ago of 2 places where it possibly could. One was Telangana. because BJP was making a real bid for Telangana. And I thought a year ago, it seemed that BJP could do that. By now, as you can see, that's completely receded. BJP is not there at all. The election results would confirm it. BJP is now a distant third in Telangana, back to where it was. The second possibility is Uttar Pradesh, which is being mentioned. But please remember, they already have 64 seats out of 80. And some BJP walas say, although I've traveled a little, my colleagues are traveling, and it does seem that that's not going to happen, but BJP's best case scenarios are saying we will increase it by 3 or 4. Can we think of any other state in India where BJP can possibly increase its tally? Sorry? Maharashtra. BJP and Shiv Sena had 41 out of 48. BJP has 10 out of 10. Delhi, 7 out of 7. Himachal Pradesh, 4 out of 4. Uttarakhand, 5 out of 5. Rajasthan, 24 plus 1 out of 25. Gujarat, 26 out of 26. Madhya Pradesh, 27 out of 28. Chhattisgarh, 10 out of 11. Jharkhand, 11 out of 14. Bihar, 39 out of 40. Karnataka, they have 25 out of 28. I'm glad we did that bit. I'm glad we thought about it. I hope I've made my point. BJP has hit a saturation point. Now, so assuming that maybe Uttar Pradesh, a few seats, maybe some other state, 1 or 2 seats, but there simply isn't space for BJP to go up further. Now let's ask the second question. Are there places where we think BJP is likely to go down? Maharashtra, Karnataka. I don't hear Bihar. Bihar, they had 39 out of 40 seats. West Bengal, I would take seriously because BJP has 18 out of 42 in West Bengal, and currently no one is willing to even take a ticket from BJP. They may improve slightly, but there's no way that the 18 scenario is simply over. You know, BJP is doing very poorly in Bengal right now. So, Bengal, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka. I would then we would think of this entire belt, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Haryana, where they control 100%, almost 100%. So there has to be some loss. We don't know the extent of losses, but we initially talked about places where they're bound to lose. And then there are places where they would leak a bit. In the normal situation, I'm not giving you any political speech, yahan bhi haar jayenge, wo bhi haar jayenge. I'm just making a very reasonable kind of guesswork that all of us indulge in. What does it leave us with? They may? No, sir, they already have 8. And they got 8 out of 20 thanks to Naveen Patnaik. Everyone knows that in politics. Everyone knows that they were gifted those seats. And it's unlikely that Naveen Patnaik would wish to expand the gift because it was gifted. No way in Odisha, sir. So the basic point that I wanted to make was for all of us to see, it's not my expertise speaking, it is all of us speaking that BJP can lose. They cannot possibly add, and they're bound to leak about 30, 40, 50, 60 seats. Whichever way, you know, every one of us will have different calculations. BJP is vulnerable. There are places, if that could have changed if BJP had become a big player in Tamil Nadu, if they had become a big player in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, then the situation could have been. So BJP has a lot to lose and nowhere to make up from. So if this hall was full of people who were BJP sympathizers, which is not the case, but if it was the case, all of us in this hall would be very worried. You know, I just want us to remember that. You know, which does not prove that BJP will lose this election. It does not prove that. All it shows is that BJP can lose. There's nothing providential here. BJP is not sitting on some hill out there from which it cannot be brought down. It is extremely vulnerable, and the vulnerability stems from the fact that there are about 350 seats in the parliament, from which BJP needs to win 250. Because in the remaining 190, BJP gets only 25 seats. That structural thing has not changed yet. So BJP faces a structural deficit, which it hasn't overcome yet. So, for everyone's benefit, BJP can lose. It does not require any huge earthquake. It does not require providence. It doesn't require divine intervention. In normal course of things, they can lose. Will they lose? Two things here. One is there an alternative? Is the alternative attractive? A year ago, you would have said there is no alternative at all. After Uttar Pradesh election, everyone said, अब तो 29 की बात कीजिए, अब तो खत्म है ना? Bharat Jodo Yatra changed the mood. And not only for Congress Party, not only for Rahul Gandhi, I think it changed the country's mood. And then the formation of India coalition has put a semblance of an alternative. We do not yet know how attractive the alternative would be. We do not know how effective and robust that alternative would be, but there is semblance of an alternative. 6 months ago, we were told, ये तो एक साथ कमरे में नहीं बैठ सकते. वो बैठ भी गए, उन्होंने एक नाम भी बना लिया अपना. Something has changed. There is a semblance of an alternative. Is that sufficient? No. That is necessary, but not sufficient. What do we need? This coalition called India has to go beyond seat adjustments. Because merely seat adjustment, just India coalition partners entering into seat adjustment with each other would give them barely 10 or 15 extra seats. Because wherever seat adjustments were required were already in place even before India coalition came into being. The real strength of India coalition is not in seat adjustment. It is in being able to offer a new dream to this country, offer better hope to this country, present a new agenda to this country, which they haven't done so far. And second, and even more important than that, the efficacy of India coalition lies in its ability to launch ground struggles. I keep saying, Sansad se unchi hai sadak. Or parliamentary coalitions are all right, they're useful, they're okay. But unless you find them walking on the street on one issue, the issue could be unemployment, could be inflation, could be Adani, and why not Adani? You know, pick one issue, go to street. That hasn't yet happened. But if that happens, and it must happen quickly, if that happens, suddenly the political equations of the country can change because there's enormous unease, enormous disaffection, which is not turning into anger because people don't see quite a clear outlet. So that's about what India coalition can and should do. Finally, I must say something about what you and I can do. Because reclaiming the republic is not the responsibility only of those political parties. It's your and my responsibility as well. Allow me to say, It's your and my responsibility first. Political parties will have their arithmetic. They would have their own share of compulsions, as they are called. But you and I do not suffer from those compulsions. Please remember, BJP wins elections not because BJP's own strength is substantially bigger than the combined strength of opposition parties. If BJP wins in Northwest India, it is because there is a larger concentric circle around the BJP, which is called the Sangha Parivar. They bring in large number of volunteers, they bring in energies, they bring in ideas, they bring in legitimacy. This is what gives BJP the strength that the party does not have. In itself, India coalition can take on the BJP. But with that bigger circle, they can't. So the question is, where would that bigger circle come from for the opposition parties? Where is that larger concentric circle? Where is the outer periphery for the India coalition? That has to be you and me. This is our historic responsibility. Today, all of us, every one of us who can see what is at stake, those who can't see, can't see. But those of us who can see what is at stake at this moment in history, we have absolutely no option if we are sincere, if we are honest to ourselves, if we are honest to our children, to our next generation. We have no option except to jump in, except to come and say, okay, this is the moment. In 1942, I was not born. In 1975, some of you were not born. I was born, but I was too small. Couldn't play that role. Thanks to Modi ji, we have an opportunity of doing something for history, being relevant, being able to tell our grandchildren that we did something that mattered, that made a difference in this country. What can we do? We can bring in the energy of the wider movement sector. I can assure you, I've been walking in this country, like many other friends, I've been around this country. This country does not have dearth of energy to take on the BJP. This country does not lack activists, does not lack ideas, does not lack energy, does not lack resources to take on the BJP and the RSS put together. The problem is that all those energies and resources are scattered, while BJP has managed to align everything for its own purposes. So all that we need to do is to ensure that our energies are also aligned. I can assure you, if there is X amount of energy available in this country to take on the BJP RSS, the big political parties that constitute India coalition, they probably do not have even 10% of that energy inside them. The real energy to take on BJP RSS lies outside these parties. Big parties have footprint, very large footprint. They have resources. They have name recognition. Therefore, they are essential. They are necessary. But what they do not have are those that edge, that ideas, cadre, commitment at any cost. So all you and I need to do is to fuse these two things together. And if we can bring in even 1/3 of the energy which is available outside these mainstream political parties and somehow align it to the task of defeating the BJP, BJP and RSS have simply no way that they can win this battle. Because in this country, the power of social movements, of various struggles, is so deep, so widespread, that actually BJP, RSS is no match for that. The trouble, as I said, is that much of that energy is outside the mainstream political parties. So in the next 6 months, our job is cut out. How do we gather those energies? Educating people afresh is a job that can be done later. But those who already are educated, those like people in this room who do feel that something big is at stake and can I do something? How can I help? If we can simply gather those who are asking, how can I help? We would have a mountain with us. We have to gather that. And we in Bharat Jodo Abhiyan are doing exactly that. The Bharat Jodo Abhiyan, of which we have friends in Maharashtra, and there are many other initiatives of that kind. So I'm not making a pitch for one particular effort. Whichever effort you can join to this is fine. But in Bharat Jodo Abhiyan, we decided that we are social movements, protest movements, political parties. I do belong to a political party called Swaraj India. We took a resolution a year ago, and we said the country faces a big problem, it's a big crisis, and in this situation, it is pointless for us to contest elections and to divide votes and to, distract energies. We will not contest any election. We will not work for spreading our own organization. We'll work only and only for saving the country in 2024. Now, that's a resolve that many organizations think of and have taken. That's what we need to do. While we see enormous personal self-sacrifice, but we have a strange disease in this country, enormous self-sacrifice combined with enormous selfishness for the organization. मैं अपनी जान दे दूंगा, लेकिन झंडा नहीं छोड़ूंगा, लेटर हेड नहीं छोड़ूंगा, पार्टी का नाम नहीं छोड़ूंगा. At this moment in history, we need to sacrifice all that as well. And if we do that, so in Bharat Jodo Abhiyan, we are trying to bring all such groups, individuals together, and we are saying we would focus our energies only in a few places. So for Maharashtra, for example, we've thought of about 25 constituencies where we'll focus all our energies on. In Madhya Pradesh, we may end up picking only 15 out of 28. So we are focusing our attention on a few places which are marginal constituencies, which can go either way. And those who are not working in those constituencies, the other thing that we would do is to work on communication, because so much of BJP's strength lies in the propaganda machine. We are dealing with one of the perhaps the biggest propaganda machine in human history. So the second part of our effort is to create a communication army. If they have a troll army, we want to create a truth army to take on that troll army. These are two things. So there's a ground force and there's an air force, as it were. The air force that would combat communication, and the ground force which will work on selective constituencies and work there. These are the two means through which we want to work. Other movements, other organizations are also working towards that. And as I said, whichever banner works best for you, please go for that. Doesn't matter, as long as it contributes to that big effort. Can we succeed? Is a question many friends ask. सब कुछ कर लेंगे, लेकिन जीत सकते हैं क्या? बीजेपी को हरा सकते हैं क्या? I have just one thing to say on that, which draws upon a filmy dialogue. This is Shashi Kapoor and Amitabh Bachchan. You know, you remember that one? He says, मेरे पास गाड़ी है, बंगला है, कार है, तुम्हारे पास क्या है? और वो कहता, मेरे पास माँ है. I think something similar is on a more serious plane. BJP has everything. They have power, they have ED, they have IT, they have police, they have media, they have everything. But we have three things. We have the soul of this civilization. We have the message and the legacy of the freedom struggle. And we have the constitution of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. These three things are with us. And with this, we shall win. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful talk. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Veyukar to please give his remarks. Would you like to do it from the podium or there? And then we will break for question and answer after that, but I'd also like to make a housekeeping announcement. Everybody, please ensure that your phones are on silent. It is very disruptive and rude towards our guests here. Yeah.
हे बंद करू का बेटा मी चालेल तुला हां हां ठीक आहे थँक यू Thank you, Yogendra ji, for enlightening us. I don't say audience, but I said us, on the very important topic, which is near to my heart also. And therefore, I thank organizers for inviting me here to listen to you and to chair this session. So thank you very much, Purva. And the 6 points which you have mentioned, which are multidimensional nature. One is democracy, where you explained about the emergency also. In a lighter vein, if I want to say, if I have to define emergency, the emergency, as we say, which is everybody has a right to say whatever they want to say as per the Constitution, following the entire Constitution, having rights and responsibilities. But when he was explaining, I wanted to add one alphabet in English into that democracy, that is N in between. So now today, in some respect, that democracy spelling has been changed and it has become democracy. Many times I feel, especially in my field, education, though I don't belong to any political party, but the debate is missing. Even in Sanatan Dharma, if you remember the debate of Shankaracharya, and if you remember the debate of Shankaracharya when he had the highest kind of debate which we discuss in Sanatan Dharma, that debate is missing. And therefore, when I was coming for this program and talking to my friends, the 4 quadrant political system which we were talking in ancient India, when kings used to rule us, that 4-quadrant thing was Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. Now we are living in 3-quadrant democracy, where Sam is missing. Only other 3 quadrants are remaining: Danda, Bhed, and the third one. What is this? I just give you an example. 1.5 years before, I had gone to Delhi because we had a Vice Chancellor's conference. And this, everybody was talking about new education policy, NEP 2020. And the ministers and all other regulators were there on the dais. And then suddenly, while speaking, the minister asked some question which is their style of asking. NEP अच्छी है या नहीं है, हाथ ऊपर कीजिए. And I tell you, in a gathering of around 300 vice chancellors, hardly 10 people, 10-15 people did not raise their hand, all others raised their hands. Read between the line. Reading between the line is, all of them are not independent thinkers. They are not supposed to think. They are not allowed to think. Are we want to live in this kind of democracy? And that too, in a university. The word university comes from universe. And universe means diversity. Diversification of thoughts. You're giving autonomy to every individual to think differently. And if that is missing, then we need to think what we need to do. Then, very interestingly, he has talked about secularism, federalism, idea of socialism, ecology, social justice. These are the 6 different aspects, dimensions which he very well narrated to all of us. I give you one example again. I was in Gujarat in one of the university, and we had a mass media school. And my mass media school head of the department invited. I'm just putting forth some examples. They wanted to have a discussion, and they invited Rajdeep Sardesai, and the other person was Arnav Goswami. No, fair enough. Academic institutions, everybody has to say whatever they want to say. That is what the academic institution should be. But Arnav Goswami said that I cannot come. One day before, one of the trustee, one day before, called, and then he said, you just cancel the program. So my head of the department was very much worried. How can I cancel when I gave him time and when I invited everybody for this program? But he said, nothing doing, you just cancel the program. And it took 3 hours for me to restore that program. It took 3 hours. And then he was not really happy with me also. But this is the kind of interference and interventions which are happening in the academic institution, where we want those young people to become the future leaders. This is my experience which I am telling you. I suffered, which I don't consider that I have suffered, when Mr. Modi wanted to land to University of Mumbai because we had a helipad. And there is a contract between the Vice Chancellor and the government that you will not give the premises of university for any political program. I was following the rules. I said, no, I cannot give. And then whatever has to happen, that has happened. And the police commissioner of that time, member of parliament from Uttar Pradesh, and there is a provision to police, to the government, that if they can take any premises under one section and then seal that premises for some hours, he did that. What was the outcome? Immediately after retirement, a ticket to become a member of parliament. Do we want this kind of nation? That is the question which we need to ask ourselves. And therefore, when he was addressing, I thought that unless and until, the thought which came to my mind is, we should not work to make Mr. Modi lose. We should never work. I am saying Modi and not BJP. Because I don't consider that we have a BJP rule in this nation. We don't have. We have one person rule. And therefore we should not work for making Modi lose. But we should help to protect Constitution. Forget about that. Don't go into that debate. I like Gautam Buddha, which I am following, though I am not Buddhist, but I like him, Buddha and Mahavira, their philosophies. He said, don't become reactionary. Don't react. Because when you react, somebody has acted and then you are reacting. So you lose the control of yourself and give that control to themselves. That is what the political parties, those who want to win in 2024, are doing. They are acting and these people are reacting. What they should do is, they should respond. Professionally, academically, if you learn the theory, then you will understand what do you mean by double think. What do you mean by false truth? The moment you understand that false truth, you will not react, you will stop reacting, and you will, otherwise, in any kind of debate, which I have stopped now, because you don't get anything except headache. And I don't take medicines, and I don't want to spend money on my headache, and therefore I don't watch those debates. Because somebody is attracting you towards what they want, and you are getting attracted because you are not academically thinking, you are not doing research, you don't have a strategy, and therefore you need to have a strategy. What he spoke is very, very relevant. But what is in our hand? I like one sentence, and that sentence is, change is mandatory. Change is going to happen. Survival is optional. Now, if you want to survive, then think differently. Think about the Constitution, a brave Constitution which we have. We are fortunate, but at the same time, you and me might not have got an opportunity to participate in the freedom struggle. But this is the time to participate in this freedom struggle. Can we see tomorrow If you believe, we will be able to see that. But now we need to change the phrase. Earlier we used to say, seeing is believing. Let us change that. Then only you will see the beautiful morning of 2024. That is, believing is seeing. You believe that you can bring change, and the moment you believe that you can bring change, you will be able to bring change. That is what we tell the young generation. That is what we tell the younger generation. Friends, though he is a cephalologist and I am a statistician, I also don't want to go into that, because error plays an important role. When you predict something, that error plays an important role. What we have seen after 2014, there are 3 products which are available in the country, in the world. The 3 products are mirrors, 3 types of mirrors. One type of product is missing. Deliberately, that product is not available, made available in our country. And in some of the countries, when you see the elections of US, election of UK, and some other countries. The product name is mirror. The plain mirror is not available. You have been shown the concave or convex mirror. And you have to see everything through that mirror. We really don't think the social media, the WhatsApp has spoiled us. यूपी में एक कहावत है, वैसे ही हमारा चल रहा है. यूपी में कहा जाता है कि आपको अगर बताया गया कि आपका कान कौवा काट के लेके गया है, तो आप कौवे के पीछे भागते, कान को हाथ लगा के नहीं देखते हैं. सोशल मीडिया वैसे ही हो गया है. कोई आपको बता रहा है आपका कान कौवा काट के लेके गया और कौवे के पीछे भाग रहे हैं, आप अपने कान को हाथ नहीं लगा के देख रहे हैं. That is what the situation which has been created in our country. And this is the time. If you are delayed in thinking and acting by 1.5, even not 1.5 years, it is just hardly 8 to 9 months, then we will be delayed by 15 years. मुंबई में, मैं जब मुंबई में आया 32 साल पहले, तो लोकल से सांता क्रूज से चर्च गेट जाता था. मुंबई में हर 3 मिनट बाद एक लोकल आती है. लेकिन योगेंद्र जी, अगर आपकी एक लोकल छूट गई तो आप 3 मिनट से लेट नहीं होते, आप आधे घंटे से लेट हो जाते हैं, क्योंकि आगे का सब बिगड़ जाता है आपका. तो ये जो 8 या 9 महीने हैं, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दिस पार्टी इज गुड और दैट पार्टी इज गुड, बट व्हाट इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इज आपको चूज करना है. मराठीमध्ये आमच्या एक म्हण आहे, वासरापेक्षा लंगडी गाय शहाणी. दॅट इज व्हॉट वी नीड टू डू. अल्टरनेटिव्ह नाही आहे. नंतर काय करायचं ते आपण करून घेऊया. या मताचा मी पण आहे. आय एम सॉरी, आय केम डाऊन टू माय मराठी, बट दिस इज व्हॉट आय फील, अँड देअरफॉर what is the narrative which we need to bring? Hitler, I read one book recently. The name of the book is Swastika. Swastik, we use swastik. Okay? German also they use swastik. But that swastika, a very interesting research book. And Hitler had that swastik in his flag, the party of the flag. Now they don't have, because later it has been removed by the next government. There are some people, swastik, कोई भी उसको बुरा बोल सकता है क्या हमारे देश में? नहीं, whether you want this party or that party or whatever views you have. But in Germany, because of Hitler, those who were liking that and using that swastika have started hating that swastika. And he talked about the culture. What a beautiful culture which we have. What a heritage our ancient people have given to us, left for us. कल चल के ऐसा हो जाएगा, वो अच्छा कल्चर को भी हम हेट करने लगेंगे. That is big lie. There is a big lie theory which Hitler has used, and he got succeeded. And the same big lie and double think strategy, I am not going to explain you this. There is a theory behind it, and there are examples for this. We need to understand what it is. False truth, बार हैमरिंग हो रहा है तो हम सोचते कि सही है. And therefore it is the intellectual people. Justice Chandrasekhar Dharmadhikari always used to say, problem illiterate लोगों को नहीं है, अनपढ़ लोगों को नहीं है, जो समाज में इन्फ्लुएंसर है उनका है. क्योंकि वो कहते थे सज्जन जो लोग हैं उनका प्रॉब्लम है, सज्जन कभी एक साथ नहीं आते, वो अपनी अपनी इंडिपेंडेंट बात करते रहते हैं और आपस में झगड़ा करते रहते हैं. एंड दिस इज द टाइम वेयर लीविंग समथिंग, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, coming together for some purpose is very, very important. यहाँ जितने भी महिलाएं बैठी है, आजकल तो पुरुष भी खाना बनाते हैं घर में, लेकिन जितनी भी महिलाएं बैठी है उनको पता है कि घर में अगर 10 लोग हैं, अगर 10 लोगों ने 10 प्रकार का खाना बनाया है तो कितनी मुश्किलें होती हैं. ये सारे के सारे सज्जन जो 10 लोग हैं हमारे देश में, वो सज्जनों को LCM की बात करनी होगी और आगे बढ़ना होगा, नहीं तो खाना नहीं मिलेगा. वो इंटेलेक्चुअल खाना होगा, मेंटल खाना होगा, जो भी प्रकार का खाना होगा इन सिटीजन्स को, वो खाना हमें नहीं मिलेगा. ये हमें सोचना होगा. एंड देयरफॉर वी नीड टू वर्क टुगेदर. आई कैन go on and explain about this theory, but I think you must be having many questions in your mind to ask to Yogendra ji, and therefore I, at the final comment, I would like to say, don't believe in seeing is believing, believe in believing is seeing, and then start the work from today. बड़ा दुश्मन उसको हराओ, बाकी का देख लेंगे. That is what I feel. So thank you, Yogendra ji, for your enlightened thoughts, and I thank the organizers and the audience, organizers for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to be amongst all of you. And I thank the audience for listening to me or hearing to me, whatever you have done. There is a difference between the two. Listening is यहाँ से यहाँ जाता है, hearing is यहाँ से जाता है और यहाँ से निकल जाता है. But whatever you have done, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the audience participation and the laughter that we heard intermittently is testament to the fact that you were able to get through to them about such a complex and serious topic, and you used humor and some, you brought in lightness, and that's what we look to have over here. And we've always ensured that it's a dialogue and it's a two-way communication between our audience and our speakers. So this would be rather informal. In the interest of time, I would ask you to limit your questions to perhaps just one question per person. And then you may, if our guests have the time, you may talk to them once the talk is over. So we're going to pass around the mics. So just raise your hands if you have a question. Yeah.
Yes, very lucidly said, Dr. Yadav. My question is, again, Mr. Modi will become more strident when the elections come by doing another Pulwama-style thing or trying to resign and then come. So we should guess what he will do so that the public gets aware and not taken by surprise. Any comments, sir?
Yes, it is true that everyone in this country somehow fears that some big development may happen. And yes, we should try and alert the public that something like this may happen. There was a recent YouTube interview that Rahul Gandhi did with Mr. Satyapal Malik. All these things are useful. My own sense, in line with what the chairperson has already said, is that I think we should spend less time in thinking about what Mr. Modi may do, and instead spend more time in thinking about what I shall do. That would be more useful.
Hi, this is Sudhakar Malpe. It was an excellent debate. In fact, you gave us a lot of insight to what is going to be happening prior to 2024. As an astrologist for last 20 years, we have been following you in every debate, and you really excelled in every debate. I also need to mention about Dr. Rajan's fight in restoring the dignity of university, and he has succeeded. And I think even it is not too late to give him a big round of applause to Rajan. Thank you, sir. Now my question is only one. We think about we talk about anti-incumbency of the governing the thing. But is there any anti-incumbency to the manipulable EVM machine, which has really brought this dinosaur in 2014, 2019, and almost all the elections, including defeating Rahul Gandhi in Amethi?
Sir, thank you. I hear a lot about EVMs. I'm no technical expert. What I understand is the following. Number one, that any electronic gadget in this world is programmable and therefore manipulable. Number two, Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah are not known to suffer from any qualms whatsoever. Number three, that the Election Commission is not known to have a backbone. From these three, many friends conclude that therefore EVMs are rigged and elections have been manipulated. My own sense is that from these three assumptions, the fourth conclusion does not follow. I think we need to be more careful in coming to these conclusions, as must be very evident in the last 1 hour, that I am no fan or supporter of Mr. Modi. I must also say that as yet I have not come across evidence that shows that BJP won any major election on the basis of EVM manipulation. There is one bit of evidence which has come from the Ashoka University professor, which shows that the interpretation, it's a statistical inference, and at the most it says possibly 18 constituencies may have suffered from that, which would not have changed the election result. And that's a statistical inference. It is not a direct evidence. You see, what happens, I think, is the reason why I'm saying is not to, obviously I'm not here to defend Mr. Modi, but I must defend my own intellectual faculties.
I must defend my own sense of, I must defend my political judgment. And my judgment is that Mr. Modi won elections because people voted for him. It's a hard truth. The sooner we accept this hard truth, the better it is. The people, and the same holds for Mr. Yogi. He won because people in Uttar Pradesh voted for him. I was there, I traveled, I spoke to people. The reason I'm saying all this is, let us not reduce let's not take lightly the challenge that we face today. The fact is that millions and crores of people, their heart and mind have been poisoned, that they actually do believe that Hindus have been oppressed, that they do believe that all the stuff that BJP is propagating. So your and my challenge, more than, because if I say, well, they won because of EVM, that reduces my political burden. मैं क्या करूं? EVM ने किया. That's not the fact, sir, and that's why I'm giving a long response. The fact is that you and I have failed. The fact is that BJP has won an ideological battle. The fact is that we have failed to detoxify the poison that they have inserted. And the fact is that it is possible to do so. We have been complacent. We are guilty. I don't want to pass my guilt onto a machine. So, in practical terms, मैं बार-बार कहता हूं, उस मशीन की रिगिंग बाद में देख लेंगे, मगर ये जो यहाँ वाली रिगिंग हुई है, इसको पहले ठीक कर लेते हैं. ये तो करनी पड़ेगी ना कभी. So let's focus on that. On the EVM, two things need to be done, no more, no less. Number one, Form 17A and Form 17C should be matched. Namely, the number of votes recorded in the register on the polling booth should be matched with the number of votes recorded in the election EVM in that booth. If the register shows 758, the machine should also show 758. It doesn't happen so. So that's a technical thing. We should insist on that. Second, the electronic count should be matched with the VVPAT slip count, which is done only in one booth per constituency, and that too after the counting is over. These two things need to be challenged, but your and my principal responsibility is about the rigging here.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Dr. Sachin Bansode. Sir, I first of all congratulate you for passing the resolution in your political party that you are not contesting the election this time. Sir, my question regarding to this is that this is from our side, and you also appeal simultaneously that we also sacrifice from our side, from the public or those who are interested to contest the election. But the same response we should be get from the other side. Those who are established parties, whether they are ready to sacrifice for the layman, for the real activist, ground activist or not, or whether they are continue their legacies from generation to generation, or those who are contesting election from 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. There should be some limit, even though it is not mandatory, but at least from moral ground, unless new generation will get that opportunity. And I definitely sure that this time Modi will experiment this, the new generation against the established parties, established leaders. So I think we should convince these established parties. Ideologically, we are strong supporters, but unless and until we get the new blood, new generation, new strata, supported wholeheartedly from these parties, change will hardly I seen.
Sir,
I may be wrong. Thank you,
I
sir.
agree with you and I don't agree with you. I agree that yes, all these political parties should have young people. I agree they should have good agenda. I agree they should become moral. I agree they should be ideologically consistent. I agree that they should have better communication. I agree that they should also do 100 other things. The question we face today is, what should we do if they don't do what we expect them to do? That is the real political question that we face. If opposition parties were to do all the good things that one should do in the textbook, then of course everyone would go and vote them. You know, we are in real world. We are not in these hypothetical situations. We are in real world where we would have choices between two situations where I do not expect political parties to change overnight. I do not expect mainstream political parties to suddenly become the vendors of goodness and ethics. We would have a limited choice. And as Professor Saab said right now, I think we have to really, in a multiple situation, you have to prioritize. You have to say, okay, this consideration trumps everything else. For me, honestly, there is only one consideration in this election. When my constitution is put to vote in 2024, the person I vote for or the party I vote for, will they be for defending the constitution or for destroying the constitution? That for me is the single consideration. Nothing else matters. Unless we are able to think of these things, we would constantly be in dilemma. Just as I requested that we should not spend too much energy on EVMs, I would also suggest that that I see something happening repeatedly. All of us have suggestions about what the opposition parties should do. And for various reasons, I get a lot of suggestions every morning about what Rahul Gandhi should do. I really wonder if we would not be better off if we were to spend that much energy in telling ourselves about what we should do. I really think we should do that. All that you say about what political parties should do is good. We should do that. We should try and persuade them. We should also pressurize them. If you can arm twist them, please go and arm twist them as well. Lovely. But let's get our priorities right. At the moment, we are in a situation where our constitution, our republic is at stake. And if we then get confused and say, but they don't have young candidates, honestly, I'm willing to vote even if their candidate is 95-year-old. Doesn't matter to me. You have to choose. At critical moments in history, you have to get your priorities right and you have to choose. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Dr. Yadav. My question is like this, that I agree with you that given the political climate, BJP will drop about 40-50 seats in the 2024 elections. My worry is that is not going to be enough. If they end up near 250, they will have help from people like KCR and Naveen Babu. If they end up near 220, they will do Operation Lotus and they can still get close to majority. So if we really want to defeat BJP, they have to end up somewhere 200 or below. And that much swing I don't see in the currently in the nation. What do you say about that?
2-3 things, sir. When I said, I did not say BJP will lose 30 to 40 or 50 seats. I said that by very elementary calculation, commonsensical calculation, it's not hard to see BJP losing 30, 40, 50 seats in a normal situation. But you're absolutely right. That normal situation is without your and my work. If we push, if we do something additional, then that 30-40 can become 60-70, which is what is required. So I agree that it has to be 220 or below for BJP to be firmly out of power. And that is where our job comes in. I did not say that BJP's losses cannot go beyond 30, 40, or 50. I think it can be pushed to 100. The losses can be pushed to 100. You know, it all depends on what we do. Therefore, I have actually stopped making any election forecast whatsoever. You know, because 2024 election is not about forecasting monsoon. It's not forecasting rains in Mumbai, because rains will happen no matter what you do. But 2024 election results, what you do will make the results. So I'm all the time focused on what can I do. The range can be 30 to 100, and it can be 0 losses, depending on what happens. There are a range of possibilities, and the actual outcome depends on what we do. That's what I want to focus on.
Sir, we are living in the world of data. The data shows that the people are voting against a political party in the assembly elections. But when it comes to parliamentary elections, the same voters are doing exactly opposite. Can you suggest a formula as a statistician or cephalogist which would help India to decide or form their strategy to get these votes to their side?
So there's no statistics involved here. This is simple politics. There is no such trend as you mentioned, because the trend that you mentioned does not operate for Tamil Nadu. It does not operate in Andhra Pradesh. It does not operate in Telangana. Does not operate in West Bengal. It has operated for the last 2 elections in some states of Northwest India. That's all. Nothing more to it. And it has operated because while people were unhappy with BJP as a party, they thought, or they were made to persuade, that at the national level there is no alternative. The moment people see an alternative which is half decent and half workable, this law that you mentioned will change immediately. So the real focus has to be for the opposition to be able to present a face which is believable, if not attractive. And for us to go and present the true face of the regime today to the people, that is the task. So yes, it has happened in many states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, what you said has happened. But that is something which is not, there's nothing permanent or immutable about it. It's just about being able to present an alternative at the national level. Formation of India is the first step in that direction, but we need 2 or 3 more steps in that direction.
Namaskar. Excuse me. Namaste, my name is Tanu Ambekar, I am citizen of India. मेरा आपसे सवाल ये है कि हम लोग बैलेट पेपर के बारे में क्यों नहीं सोचते, क्यों मूवमेंट नहीं चलाते?
सर मेरे ख्याल में वापस हम उसी पे आ गए हैं, ईवीएम वर्सेस बैलेट पेपर। मेरा अपना सेंस है कि हमें इसमें बहुत वक्त नहीं लगाना चाहिए। आप तो, आपकी उम्र मेरे से बहुत अलग नहीं होगी, तो आपको ध्यान होगा वो ज़माना जब बैलेट पेपर हुआ करते थे। बैलेट पेपर की छीना झपटी भी हुआ करती थी, बूथ कैप्चरिंग भी हुआ करती थी। बैलेट पेपर का ज़माना कोई बहुत सुंदर ज़माना नहीं था, और उस ज़माने में कोई बहुत इलेक्टोरल मेल प्रैक्टिसेस ना होती हों, ऐसा नहीं था। तो सारा कुछ होता इससे है कि हमें ईवीएम के बारे में शक है ना। सब कुछ, सबका हार्ट वही है जो इन्होंने कहा, आप कह रहे हैं ईवीएम में हमें यकीन नहीं है, इसलिए हम बैलेट पेपर ढूंढ रहे हैं, हम दुनिया के एग्जाम्पल्स ढूंढ रहे हैं, सब कुछ कर रहे हैं। मेरा बिल्कुल हाथ जोड़ के निवेदन है, जितना वक्त हम ईवीएम पे लगाते हैं, उतना वक्त अगर हम लोगों से बात करने में लगाएं, और उनकी यहाँ वाली रिगिंग को हटाएं, ऑनेस्टली दैट वुड बी बेटर यूज ऑफ टाइम। और आपको एक और बात बताऊं, जिस दिन इस देश में पब्लिक खड़ी हो गई कि ये रिजीम तो ये देश के खिलाफ लोग हैं, उस दिन अगर ईवीएम की हेराफेरी से कोई इलेक्शन जीतेगा ना, वो 2 दिन इंडिया का प्राइम मिनिस्टर नहीं रह सकता। अभी भी इस देश में इतनी गैरत बची है। अगर ये पब्लिक में, और देश की पब्लिक को पता होता है, अगर लोगों को जिस दिन ये लग गया कि मैं इसे वोट तो नहीं दे के आया था, ये जीत कैसे गया, वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर बच नहीं सकता इस देश के अंदर, बैलेट हो या ईवीएम हो, चाहे जो मर्जी हो जाए, है ना। इसलिए मेरा सचमुच कहना ये है, इस पे बहुत वक्त मत लगाइए। और मैं को कई बार लगता है कि ये आर्ग्यूमेंट्स नहीं हैं, ये मायूसी को एक्सप्रेस करने के अलग अलग तरीके हैं। इतना मायूस मत होइए, इस देश में बहुत कुछ बचा है अभी।
Thank you, sir, very much for your excellent talk. And I completely fall in line with what we have to do as individuals, as people, to go on. But my question here is that there are many, like we have said, false truths. And there are many double things. And there are many divisiveness that slow poison that has been injected. It has been my endeavor for a very long time to try and understand that how does one get rid of that? Because when I go to people and I speak to people, my name is Zeenat Shaukat Ali, okay? And when I go to people and I speak to them, this absolute anti-feeling that has come in, and this dushmani, that has come in. How does one deal? What is the narrative what is the second alternative narrative that has to be created so that we can use that narrative and see to it that we win this war?
That's a serious problem. I completely agree. इतना जहर और इतनी नफरत और इतना झूठ इस वक्त इंजेक्ट कर दिया गया है. How does one deal with this pack of lies and hatred? Short term, medium term, long term. Short term, I'm afraid the only way is to bypass it, like it was done in Karnataka. Karnataka election could have been fought on the issue of hijab. Thank God it was not fought on the issue of hijab. Was a correct issue. It's after all a denial of educational opportunities to children. But I'm so grateful that the election was not fought on the issue of hijab. The election was fought on corruption and unemployment. And that's why BJP was defeated. And Muslims in Karnataka told me that yes, we are very hurt about the hijab issue. We feel humiliated. But please, for heaven's sake, don't make it an election issue. You know, because they were mature, they could understand what the implications would be. So in the short term, that is to say, in the next few months, I really think that the best way, the most prudent way, the wisest way would be to fight this election on issues of unemployment, on farmers, on social justice, plight of Dalits and Adivasis, on inflation. Yeah. So economy and material conditions of people should be the primary agenda. Many friends might say, why are you running away from the Hindu-Muslim question, the question which has been, the deep poison which has been injected? No, I'm not running away. I want the manifesto to be proper and secular. But in politics, you raise 100 issues, but only 2 or 3 you foreground. I want the foregrounding to be on economy. That would be the sensible way to approach 24. How do we deal with this poison? This poison would need a long detoxification, and that's a 1 generation or 2 generations job. It will not happen simply by pointing out to the diverse heritage of this country. That we have said, that's not enough. We need to do much more than that. We need to, in the long term, we have all lost the point that I kept making, we've lost an ideological battle. The battle to defend the constitutional values of this country. Once we have lost it, then politicians have very limited space on which they have to operate. In some ways, an electoral politician, and don't misunderstand my example, but I want us to stay with that example. They are like shopkeepers. They have to sell the goods that consumers will buy. And if the consumer's taste has suddenly deteriorated, if everyone wants to watch porn and nothing else, then the shopkeeper will sell them porn. You have to, if you want to change the taste, then you are into a slightly long-term battle. And I think the Hindu-Muslim question, the communal question, the kind of poison that has been injected and the kind of utter lies otherwise sensible people are willing to believe. Lies like Muslims are going to become majority of this country. I say, some doctor said to me the other day, मैंने कहा डॉक्टर साहब अगर मैं आपको कहूं कि मेरे को पिछले 5 दिन से 108 डिग्री टेम्परेचर है, आप मुझे क्या कहेंगे कि भाई पानी का गिलास पी लो, थोड़ा सा शांत बैठ जाओ. What are you saying? यही मैं आपको कहता हूं, what are you saying? This is so. इतने हद तक जहां गया है, वहां हमें एक बहुत लंबी आइडियोलॉजिकल बैटल के लिए तैयार रहना पड़ेगा, जिससे ये सब चीजें ठीक होंगी. और उसमें पहले हम ये जो अगर हम 24 में किसान का सवाल, महंगाई का, बेरोजगारी का, गरीब का ये सवाल उठा के और साथ में सोशल जस्टिस के सवाल को उठा के अगर हम अपने लिए थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा गुंजाइश बनाएं, तो फिर हमें इनके झूठ का मुकाबला करना पड़ेगा. ये बातें झूठ हैं, ये दिखाने के लिए 5 महीना काफ़ी नहीं है. उसके लिए आपको थोड़ा वक्त चाहिए. और मेरे लिए 24 इसलिए सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि 24 मुझे मेरे लिए 24 अपने आप में सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट नहीं है. 24 इसलिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि मुझे लड़ाई लड़ने के लिए फुटहोल्ड देगा. फुटहोल्ड नहीं होगा तो मैं कैसे लड़ूंगा वो लड़ाई. तो पहले दरवाजा बंद ना हो जाए, बस सिर्फ दरवाजे में पांव लगा के रखें हम, और उसके बाद असली लड़ाई लड़नी होगी. और वो लड़ाई किसी फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल से कम नहीं है जो हमें लड़नी होगी. जिस तरह से फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल ने इन चीज़ों की लड़ाई जो हमने हासिल किया, ये मुल्क आसानी से तो हासिल नहीं हुआ, कितनी कुर्बानियों से हासिल हुआ है ये मुल्क, है ना. और उतनी ही कुर्बानियाँ देनी पड़ेंगी इसे दोबारा हासिल करने के लिए. 2024 में चाहे कुछ भी हो, इतनी कुर्बानियाँ देनी पड़ेंगी इसको हासिल करने के लिए, है ना. तो वो लंबी तैयारी है. तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि उसके लिए, मगर वो एक आइडियोलॉजिकल कल्चरल बैटल है. और वो आइडियोलॉजिकल कल्चरल बैटल लड़ने के लिए 2-4 मैं सिंपल फॉर्मूले बता सकता हूँ. एक तो हम सब अंग्रेज़ी बोलना बंद कर दें. माने अपना पब्लिक कम्युनिकेशन हम हिंदुस्तान की जिस भी ज़ुबान को जानते हैं उसमें करें. मराठी, तमिल, तेलुगु, जो भाषा आती है ऑर्डिनरी लोगों से उनकी भाषा में. दूसरा, सिर्फ लैंग्वेज नहीं, उसके मुहावरे में बात करें. मैं एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल दे देता हूँ जो मेरा बहुत फेवरेट एग्जांपल है. 6 दिसंबर 1992 बाबरी मस्जिद डिमोलिश हुई. मैं उन दिनों चंडीगढ़ में रहता था, यूनिवर्सिटी प्रोफेसर था, लेकिन एक स्लम में रहता था. मैं स्लम लाइक पोजीशन जगह थी, वहाँ रहता था. और कर्फ्यू लग गया तो मैं कहीं जा नहीं सकता था. तो मैं अपने पड़ोसियों से बात कर रहा था, देखो कितना बुरा हुआ. मेरे इधर तांगे वाला रहता था, इधर लेफ्ट में जो रहते थे वो सुअर पालते थे, सामने वाले घर में पियोन थे. सबको मैंने अपना दुख दर्द सुनाया. प्रोफेसर साहब थे तो इसलिए उन्होंने सुन लिया. लेकिन बाद में एक बंदे ने मेरे से कहा, प्रोफेसर साहब, राम जी का मंदिर यहाँ नहीं तो इंग्लैंड में बनेगा क्या? मेरी सारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म और लिबरलिज्म और ये वैल्यूज़ और ये सब बिल्कुल ख़त्म हो गए. अगले दिन सुबह मेरे पास लैंग्वेज नहीं थी उनसे बात करने को, हिंदी तो थी लेकिन वो लैंग्वेज नहीं थी। अगले दिन सुबह हिंदी के एक जर्नलिस्ट थे प्रभाष जोशी, उन्होंने एक फ्रंट पेज एडिटोरियल लिखा, मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम के नाम पर कलंक। It was a total editorial was about episodes from मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम्स लाइफ। उन्होंने ये किया और देखो इन लोगों ने कल अयोध्या में ये किया उसके नाम पे, उनकी जिंदगी ये थी और देखो इन लोगों ने कल ये किया। That gave me a voice। मेरे को एक तो सिर्फ लैंग्वेज नहीं, हमें मुहावरा भी अपना बदलना पड़ेगा। इस देश के लोगों से उनकी जुबान में, उनके मुहावरे में, उनकी आस्था के साथ बात करनी पड़ेगी। वो हमने 70 साल से नहीं की। और सचमुच इस देश के एलीट के बारे में मुझे जो लगता है, आपको मैं बताऊं, टॉल्स्टॉय के नॉवल पढ़िए। टॉल्स्टॉय के नॉवल 19th सेंचुरी रशिया के बारे में है। और रशियन एलीट क्या करता है? रशियन एलीट फ्रेंच में बात करता है एक दूसरे से, रशियन में बात नहीं करता, फ्रेंच में बात करता है। और फिर वो स्कैंडलाइज होता है कि ये पेजेंट्स क्या कर रहे हैं। अरे जिसकी जुबान तुम नहीं बोलते हो उसके बारे में तुम क्या जानते हो? मुझे हिंदुस्तान के एलीट को देख के यही लगता है कि ये सब 19th सेंचुरी के रशियन एलीट हैं जो फ्रेंच में बोल रहे हैं। फ्रेंच बोलना छोड़ दीजिए, सबसे पहले ये करना चाहिए हमें।
Mr. Yadav, my name is Narendra Murkumbi. Firstly, let me compliment you on your great personal courage, which I've seen on television, your intellectual stature, and also your articulation. But I have maybe a little more difficult question for you today. 2013 में 10 साल पहले आप कोई दूसरी कंपनी में थे। इनफैक्ट आपके लीडर यही है महाराष्ट्र में, आजकल दिखते नहीं हैं। आपने कहा कि करप्शन देश को खा रहा है। Everybody in government is a thief, is a chore. And you worked hard. Not only you worked hard, you made the same statement you did today, that people should rise, people should take things in your hand. And not only that, you were successful. You galvanized the country. And more than a lakh of people sat for days in Ramlila Maidan in Delhi. Completely demolished the moral, political authority of the then government, which in hindsight, many today will say was far more democratic for all its faults. Today in 2023, you're addressing us. You're again dark clouds. You see all these dark clouds. You articulate it very well. You're telling us that Mr. Modi, Mr. Shah, X and Y, we should all rise up. We should defeat them. I don't understand. I mean, is it so black and white now suddenly that people whose government you pulled down, whose party was demolished so badly that it ended up giving a one-sided election victory? What would have been 2014, for example, if the UP had lost power, but the new government had not been a full majority? Maybe this decline would not have been so hard. If the same people had to run a coalition government, maybe we've seen a BJP government which was a coalition. It was a far softer and accommodative and democratic government from 1999 to 2004. So, you know, a lot of things that you say resonate, and I'm sure you have a very sympathetic audience here today. But, you know, this doom saying somewhere, you know, I'm skeptical, Mr. Yadav, that this time is different. Because in 2013, you said the same thing. And I'm here to have an intellectual debate. I'm not here to criticize you. As I said, I admire your personal courage in fighting for what you believe is right.
It's a very legitimate question, and I'm glad you've asked it. Let's get it clear what the question is and what it is not. It is about counterfactuals in history. What would have happened? So what would have happened if Anna movement had not taken place? If Aam Aadmi Party had not been formed, what would have happened? So you have an understanding. Your understanding suggests that if Anna movement had not taken place, Congress would not have been delegitimized. And even if Modi had won, he would not have won with as much majority. Is that a fair understanding of what you are saying?
It is still delegitimized by your rule, even today, 10 years later.
Yeah. Now, the question, so that's your question, and then what the course of history would have been. What this does not take into account is what would have been, because suppose that did not happen in history. We say, you remove that one chair. The trouble is that that space will not remain blank. That space will be occupied by something else. In history, an understanding to say, because I've heard this kind of a thing, not only about Aam Aadmi Party and Anna movement, I've heard this about JP movement as well. If JP had not protested against Indira Gandhi, if JP had not given space to Jan Sangh to become part of Janata Party, then Jan Sangh would not have been legitimized. That's a complaint that many friends have also made, that which is again a historical counterfactual understanding. My questions to you will be the following. But before you think that I'm escaping any blame, let me clearly say where I think I'm at fault, so that we can have a dialogue which is free of blame apportioning and so on and so forth. I have written about it more than once. I think people like me must take part of the blame. But what is the blame that we must take? We must take blame for what happened to Aam Aadmi Party after it was formed. The party got hijacked, and we could not keep that party under check. Party's hijacking by those who did not share the agenda and the spirit of the movement is something that we could not prevent. And for that, Prashant Bhushan, some of us who were in the leadership should take the responsibility and should apologize. I've done that. Do I apologize for participating in that anti-corruption movement itself? No, I don't. Given a chance, will I do that again? Yes, I will do that again. Why? Because what we don't see, and I think that's probably the difference that we are dealing with, that the assumption is that if only Anna movement had not delegitimized Congress, things would have been wonderful. No, sir. If a regime which was widely perceived to be corrupt, I'm not getting into whether it was or not, etc., against which there was an enormous resentment which was building up. Anna movement did not come in a vacuum. Something was happening in that regime. There was what is loosely called anti-incumbency, but there was a sense of a regime. There was a difference between UPA 1 and UPA 2. UPA 2 regime was going in a direction. I mean, this is not the moment to complete dissection of that thing. But we do know that UPA 1 and UPA 2 were different kinds of regimes. And we do know that even without Anna movement, UPA 2 regime was acquiring a certain reputation. You are in public life, you would know what that reputation was. If that movement had not taken place, do you seriously believe that nothing else would have come? Between 2011 and 2014, no other protest movement would have come. Nothing else would have happened. That is the problem in this understanding of history. That if I take this one element, everything else will remain as it is. No, it doesn't happen in history like this. If Jayaprakash Narayan had not brought in Jan Sangh into Janata Party, would Indian democracy have been better? However much I resent the fact of Jan Sangh being legitimized, if I was in JP's place, I would do exactly the same once again. Probably with more hindsight, better wisdom, and probably with some caution. So to my mind, as and when you have public protest, again, for farmers' issue, for example, we've just had a farmers' movement in which I participated, and I'm proud that I participated in that. Anna movement, I was never in the center of it. I was not one of the decision makers in Anna movement. I was a decision maker in Aam Aadmi Party. I do think that in democracy, when you have popular uprising, people standing up for a cause, and if that cause is just, if that cause is forward-looking, then my duty as a citizen is to stand with it and then try and correct it from within, not to stand out of it. So I sincerely am saying, given all the understanding that I have today, if I was to be now projected back into 2011 and asked, do you support this movement against corruption or not? I will support that movement against corruption once again. So if we can have this then, and the other thing I should clarify is, if you notice, and fortunately everything that we say is in the public domain these days and cannot be erased, I do not remember having ever said that the Republic is under challenge. I do not remember having said that the constitution of the country is under threat. I do not remember having said that that secularism, that our constitutional principles are under challenge. I do remember saying once again and again, that this movement is not about Lokpal, because they said this was about Lokpal. I said this is not about Lokpal, this is about Lokbal, and therefore it needs to be strengthened. So we can have a difference, and we should have a difference. I just want us to understand what the difference is about and what it is not about. Maybe I should stop here, but I'm very happy, and I've written twice on this issue, because my colleague Prashant Bhushan, for example, said, I think it was a mistake to have supported Anna. And I said, Prashant is someone I work very closely with. I wrote to say why I do not agree with Prashant Bhushan. So you can read that, and we can continue this dialogue. It's important, and I think I'm very happy that you've asked this in public, because I think this deepens our public life. When people are held to account for what they said or did, that deepens public discourse. So I should thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Madam, I have a... मैं तो एक बात बताऊं आपको.
Sorry, I would
just one second, I'll just say. आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं. देखिए, पहली 2-3 चीज हम देख लें. दुनिया में जब भी कोई मूवमेंट होता है, उस वक्त जो भी ऑपोजिशन पार्टी होती है, वो उसका फायदा उठाने की कोशिश करती है. आप बताइए, फार्मर्स मूवमेंट हुआ, जो भी ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज हैं, उन्होंने कोशिश नहीं की उसका फायदा उठाने की ना. पूरी तरह फायदा नहीं उठा सके, वो उनका वो है. लेकिन what I'm saying is, number one, this is the logic of democracy and competitive politics. हमेशा होगा, जब भी मूवमेंट होगा, ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज उसका फायदा उठाएंगी. जो हमारी कमी थी, वो ये थी कि हमने उस मूवमेंट को, हमने उसको पॉलिटिकल बनाया, बिल्कुल ठीक किया. मैं आज भी कहता हूँ, आम आदमी पार्टी का बनाया जाना बिल्कुल सही कदम था. लेकिन एक बार आप घोड़े पे सवार हो गए और फिर आप घोड़े को कंट्रोल नहीं कर सके और कोई और लेके भाग गया, उसका दोष आपको मिलना चाहिए. वो हमें दोष है उसका. लेकिन दोष ये नहीं है कि घोड़ा क्यों चला, घोड़ा बैठा क्यों नहीं रहा, और घोड़े पे सवार आप क्यों हुए, ये दोष नहीं है ना. ये मैं कहता हूं.
Thank you. If you have any further questions, please free to write to us on education@savanCenter.org, and we will send it forward to Yogendra ji, sir, so that he can answer to those questions. But
and also feel free to write to me My email ID is exactly whatever you think my ID is. No, which is, but the other one is yogendra.yadav@gmail.com. It's a straightforward ID. Please send it to me. I may not respond immediately, but I do respond.
Yes. I wonder from where he is gathering all this patience, because he has a flight to catch, and we are just we don't want this, of course, conversation to end. So yesterday we had a big day, the eclipse. It was Kojagiri Day, and we had the eclipse. The eclipse occurs, it releases itself, and it reoccurs. Sometimes this is what happens in our lives, in our political lives, and we have to keep ourselves ready for it. And I'm very glad that you all, dignitaries on the dais and in the audience, support Yashwantrao Chavan Center in this Mumbai dialogue, where we are trying to create this platform. We are open of all kind of ideas and discussions. With humble naman to Honorable Yashwantraoji Chavan and our Honorable Board, Honorable Supriya Tai, our chairperson, who couldn't attend today since she had to fly out of Mumbai today. I'm sure she must be watching us on FB Live and YouTube channel. I would like to thank Dr. Rajan Virukarji for chairing today's session, and also the bravery with which he shared his personal experiences. It was a learning for us. We have heard these experiences not on the stage, but it was really good, and we are very proud of such people who can do that, and it gives us great strength too. Honorable Shri Yogendra Ji Yadav, you said, Psephology cannot leave you, sir. From the time you entered this Hall of Harmony of Nehru Center, we have seen, you mingling with everyone. He calls himself a political worker, but he is a political leader of a true sense, because he displays the signs of a true leader. And personally, he approached each and every one before he started his session and tried to understand where our audience is coming from. As a leader, sir, and also as a teacher, you taught us today that as public, we are not allowed to, we must not, and we shouldn't think of pointing fingers at others, but look into ourselves, be the individual psephologists, analyze and act. If we want to reclaim our republic for today, tomorrow, and ever ahead. Can we be that cadre who has ideas, who is willing to be committed? Can we be the truth army, as you pointed out, sir, today? I would like to share here that on 26 November 2023, Yashwantrao Chavan Center has organized a conference of school education and constitution. We would like to invite you all to be a part of it. I remember in school days, since school days, we read our constitution with pride. We always read it with pride. And today, after this session, while I was hearing this session, the only thing that came to my thought is, in these days of fear and these challenges, something that comes to you, think of God, or nowadays it's the way of saying affirmations. So today I feel that today I wish to read it again. No, not out of fear, because fear me not and fear we not, but as a reassurance to ourselves that we shall have this constitution in our hand, and we do have it in our hand. So I would just like to read this preamble before we stand up for our national anthem. Would you mind? Yeah. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Thank you everyone for today's wonderful session. Please raise for the national anthem. Thank you.